Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus A330 pilot, and in today's video let's talk about what I think is the most underrated FMS page in any aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and that is the Fix Info page. So let's go ahead and have a look at what we normally use the Fix Info pages for. Now, first of all, how can we access it? Boeing FMCs have a button for it, but Airbus FMSs don't. So you can access it by going to the flight plan page, then the lateral revision on the highest waypoint, and then you've got Fix Info on the top right. Now, what would we normally use that page for? Let's kind of go through it in a chronological order of a normal flight. Starting with our takeoff preparation, we would use it to visualize our engine out sit. So, for example, you can draw an extended runway centerline by inserting your departure runway and then inserting the runway track as a radial, which effectively draws you an extended center line. Now, for emergency sits or engine out sits that have a turning departure, you could, for example, also insert a radius down here in order to draw a circle around your departure airport through the Fix Info page. Now, on the second page, we would then enter our emergency waypoint, such as Düsseldorf X1, in case of a departure from Düsseldorf on runway 05 right. Now, this is just the beginning though. So, when passing 10,000 feet, we would typically clean these up since they are no longer needed. So, what would we use them for then in the en route environment? Let's start with direct and fuel tracks. So right now we're flying direct to De Gaulle, and by entering that direct we did lose quite a couple of waypoints along our flight plan which we might otherwise have used for a fuel track. One of those waypoints is ATSUP. So using the Fix Info page we can bring ATSUP back on. So let's enter that and insert it over here on the Fix page, and you can see that now ATSUP is once again visualized on our nav display. Now, you can also include it in your actual route again this way. So how do we do this? Well, you've got the beam function down here. When clicking on that, let's give it a little while to calculate. That not allowed shouldn't come. So now it's calculating what exactly the beam position is to the route, and then by clicking on that one again, we can insert it into the flight plan. Note that we also can see the distance to go until we pass a beam that waypoint along our flight plan, so that's quite a useful feature. Now I'm going to click a beam down here. It tells me not allowed, that's a little bug, but nonetheless you can see a beam ATSUP has now been entered in our flight plan, and the waypoint ABATS, a beam ATSUP, is now part of our route down here as well, so we can use it, for example, for fuel tracks or for estimates or whatever we might possibly need it for. Now let's get rid of that one again by returning direct to De Gaulle, and then we can have a look at the next example of what to use the Fix page for. Now, Airbus aircraft, in my opinion, compared to Boeing aircraft, have one problem. The maximum range on the nav display is only 320 miles. And for this reason, when you're flying ETOPS or when you're flying longer distances from land, for example when flying the A320 down to the Canaries as well, then you often just don't see other airports nearby anymore. So we can use the Fix page to visualize our next en route alternate and where it is located. Let's have a look at an example. So we have overflown Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport a short while ago, and it would currently be our en route alternate. So we can enter Paris Charles de Gaulle down here. And now let's figure out where exactly it is by visualizing it on the nav display. Now, if we went to the rose mode, we might still be able to see it somewhere over here most likely, but let's go ahead and make it a bit easier. So using the radial function, you can not just draw extended runway center lines, but you can also, for example, draw some visualization for where an airport is. So let's enter a 180 radial, that gives you that line from Paris Airport over there. Then we can also enter a 170 radial. And now look at that. When looking at your nav display, you can immediately see like, oh yeah, I gotta go inside here in order to find Paris. So that's quite a cool feature that we use quite a bit when flying on the North Atlantic in order to visualize where our alternate airports are located. You can kind of draw this whatever way you like, and it gives you a very good idea. Another good usage of it is also to determine any latitude or longitude crossing points. How would we do that? Well, when flying across the North Atlantic and not having any waypoints or stuff nearby, you can use the waypoint page in order to visualize all those half-degree or full-degree waypoint. You know, like 5030N for a waypoint at 50 degrees north, 30 degrees west. There's different formats available for that, but they kind of work the same all along the way. So, how would we do that then? Let's say you will be crossing into the next Oceanic airspace at 40 degrees west, but you don't have a waypoint at 40 west along your route. You would then pick any of those waypoints, say for example 5040N for 50 degrees north, 40 degrees west. In order to visualize that, I'm just going to use Laren down here to show you what it would look like. So let's enter Laren, like that. And then you have to determine if you're going north or south of that waypoint. So let's say we are going south of it. So then we could enter radial 180. I'm going to show this on the example of 270 here because it's easier with our example. Or let's say 090. And here we go. Now we have a lovely line that's more or less exactly the marker for the degrees that we are looking for. So if we imagine this to be 40 degrees west, then we now know that everything over here would be 40 degrees west. Quite an easy little trick in order to visualize where airspace boundaries might be located when flying Oceanic. Now let's have a look at one more example, and this one is going to be an example when flying an approach and landing. So let's have a look at the ILS-07 left approach in Hong Kong. The approach takes us in over here, but in case of a missed approach, we have to cross very high terrain, 1,677 feet, and even 2,057 feet over here, very soon after conducting the missed approach. The extended runway centerline would lead us into a mountain roundabout over here, like 12 to 15 miles after the airport. That's 3,294 feet high. Since we always have to assume worst case scenarios, we'd have to assume an engine failure on the approach and then going around in a single engine configuration. Now why did I pick this particular approach? Because you can very nicely see the different minima depending on the different go-around gradients. So the minimum for the ILS Cat 1 with a standard 2.5% go-around gradient, which is the standard minimum certification that many airplanes fulfill. For example, a 777 at the maximum landing weight is not going to give you much more than this. However, you can see in order to get a lower minimum, here at 230 you need a go-around gradient of 6.9%. You will never be able to achieve that with your 777 at the max landing weight, let alone the 7.9% gradient you need for a Category 3 approach. So what can you do then? Well, you can fly the engine out procedure instead of the published missed approach, because the engine out procedure is normally going to fulfill the 2.5% unless something different is published for that particular approach. Now, if you use the engine out procedure, you once again use the fix info page in order to mark what it would look like, say for example straight ahead over here and then through the valleys out to the open ocean. And you could just draw that using the fix info page so that you have some reference available. But before you carry this procedure out when flying online, be sure that you got to advise ATC in case an engine failure happens that you are not going to fly the published missed approach. Now these only constitute some of the use cases of the fix page, but as you can see, it is a very useful page that we use quite a lot in the en route environment as well. One last example that we can use is that you can draw or visualize points along your flight plan without actually having to insert them into your route page. Let's take the ATSUP example once again just to show you one more time. So ATSUP going in here, now we can see ATSUP on our nav display, but it is not included on our flight plan page. The reason we don't want it included over here, especially when we are flying Oceanic, is because in case ATC asks you about your route of flight, you definitely don't want to tell them anything that is not actually inside your active flight plan. And when flying Oceanic, they actually download your route from the FMS in order to cross-check that it is correct. And you absolutely don't want any waypoints, no ETOPS points, no equal time points, no nothing in there when ATC downloads your flight plan. Therefore, you use the fix info page in order to enter any of that and visualize it on the nav display as well. One last use case that you can make, and that's the last one I promise, is to mark the next FIR boundary. So right now De Gaulle is the boundary to Barcelona, or actually it is Albert. So let's enter Albert. So Albert is in here, and now we can draw, for example, a little circle around it. And by scrolling out, you can see that now we have a very good visual representation of where we are expecting the next change in radio frequency to the next air traffic controller. Well, my friends, and that's just a couple of the use cases of the fix info page that I can really recommend you to build into your flow and to use them when you are flying online, as it makes your life a lot easier. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below and let me know if you have any other use cases for the fix info page than the ones that I have just described. Thank you very much for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you're up for more tips and tricks flying your favorite Airbuses. And if you really love what I'm doing on the channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.